Today's video is going to be about what does it mean to be a woodsman? What goes into making up a woodsman in 2020? Is it just the skills of what you see on YouTube from people that probably couldn't get themselves out of a wet paper bag with a razor blade? Or are they true skills? Are they skills to be able to build a fire in any condition? Rain, snow, 30 below zero. All of your tinders are soaking wet, like you see me here, retrieving everything that I will build a fire with out of a bucket of water, a solid bucket of water. Are these the skills that we're going to need in the year 2020 to get us through the mess that seems to be upon us right now? Or are we going to need other skills added to our arsenal, or the arrows that are in our quiver when it comes to just being able to survive in the year 2020 and the crap that we've gone through with this COVID crap and all of that? So in this video today, you're going to see I'm bringing in a little bit of food, I'm bringing in a little bit of house. What is it to be a woodsman, and the different skills that go into that, being a woodsman in the year 2020. There are some rough times that are going to head our way in the next year, 2021.
Hey, I think we got
Grocery
everything.
stores have been able to keep the grocery shelves full this year. But think about it. Workers have not been able to go out in the field and harvest like they normally do. Workers have not been able to go to work like they normally do. So our skill sets as woodsmen and as just plain general people trying to get by in the year 2020, and then the next year coming up, year 2021, could be essential in your survival. So here are some of my thoughts today on what does it mean to be a woodsman? What are the skills that I find most dear, that I think will work the best for us in the year 2020? Here you see me going to build a fire straight out of a bucket of water. These are the skills that I believe that we need to have as people. Not that all of your gear is always going to be in a bucket of water, but if you can pass this test right here of being able to build a fire with soaking wet materials, then you can probably handle just about anything that comes at you in the Maine forest. I like to talk about Maine because that's where I live, that's where I hunt, that's where I train. I train in the worst of conditions in the wintertime. I believe that if you can build a fire under these conditions, you are good to go as a Maine sportsman to enter our forest. Now what you see me doing here is I took that bark straight out of that bucket of water. I shook off as much water as I could, and now I'm just fluffing it up. This is white birch bark, and we are very fortunate here in the state that white birch bark grows on just about every piece of woods that you walk in northern Maine. White birch bark is full of oil, natural oils from the tree, so you can fluff them up. Even with this wet birch bark, you can fluff them up, and with that ferro rod, you can get a fire going with it. Just watch. It takes a little bit because everything is wet. I'm going to fluff up just a little bit more here. You need it to be as fluffy as you can when you're pulling it out of a bucket of water to try and get it to light. So all I'm doing here now is just fluffing that up just a tiny bit more, and then I will strike that with that ferro rod that you see, and it should take right off. You should be able to run a ferro rod 2-3 times at the most to get your fire built. Here it took me 5 or 6 times, but everything is soaking wet out of that bucket of water. Now I've lit that birch bark, and now I've got a piece of sap that comes off a fir tree. I got to catch my fire there before it goes out. I need just a little bit of a warm fire to get that sap ball to warm up so that I can light that. And then once I've got that lit, I can take everything else that was in that bucket of water and dry it out with that sap bar. You watch. Just hang on here for a minute. I know a lot of people like to beat feet as soon as they see flames. But there's a good fire here getting ready to come. So don't beat feet. This is a fire being built from a bucket of water. Hey, while we're waiting for this fire to get built and get roaring up just a little bit, why don't you take a minute and hit that subscribe button over there. Throw oldies grand a bone this morning and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and follow along. I have close to 250 videos now all about the great state of Maine and everything that we do up here. And a lot of stuff I've been dealing with in the past 6 to 8 months has to do with this coronavirus crap, has to do with hungry times that are, I believe, are well on their way. I might be surprised, but I don't believe that the grocery stores have done what it takes to make sure that our shelves will be full in 2021. Not trying to scare anybody here, but that's just my personal opinion, and that's what I have been setting up for, because workers, like I said earlier in this video, have not been in the field. Now look at that. Now that fire is going to take right off, and that was straight out of a bucket of water. This is one of those skills that I really do believe that if you call yourself a woodsman or you call yourself an outdoorsman, you should be able to master this right here. Building a fire anywhere, anytime, under any circumstances. So much fire building going on YouTube, and none of it is done in terrible conditions. I see pristine wood. I see just perfect conditions for building fires. And that's just not the way it is when you actually need a fire. Hear that snap, crackle, pop? That means the core of the firewood is finally taken off. Today's video is going to be what does it mean to be a woodsman? I have my opinion on what I think a woodsman is, and the rules that I've kind of lived by my entire life, as far as being out in the woods or being out on the water, different things like that. They haven't always lined up with the state of Maine's idea on rules and regulations, but as you grow as a sportsman, a lot of that stuff you leave behind, and I'm happy to say that I left that behind. As I said, you like to say that you grow up a little bit. What does being a woodsman mean to you? This is what it means to me. It means somebody that can go into the woods from sun up to sundown and take care of themselves, not have to rely on a cell phone to get them out of a pickle or out of a jam. It means somebody that is very comfortable in the woods, could lay down on any sunny spot and take a nap. I've been doing this stuff for 49 years. I started as a very young boy, and there's nothing I like to do more than get out and scout around and just see what's in the piece of woods that I'm choosing to hunt and stuff like that. But what I mean by it's kind of like, you know, self-reliance. Depend on yourself. Self-rescue if you get yourself into a problem. It's being a problem solver on the spot. Especially, you know, today's modern woodsmen, we usually employ snowmobiles, and we employ four-wheelers and six-wheelers and stuff like that, as well as four-wheel drive pickups and stuff that get us way back in. Nothing to be 15, 20, 30, 40 miles back in the woods off the hot top. Some of my best rabbit hunting was done 26 miles off the highway in Bingham. Bingham is a spot in Maine. Just big, huge pieces of woods. And then even when you got back there 26 miles, sometimes the beagles would have a different idea. and they would take you 5 or 6, 7 miles away from your pickup. So that's what being a woodsman to me is no matter what comes up while you're out there, you can handle it. Well, it's morning time. I got back from my cuss fishing trip last night. I fished until 10 o'clock. I got off the ice by 11, and I was back in the cabin here by about 11:30. Went to bed at 12:30. So sometimes fishing does take a full day. Sad to say, the fishing was not very good last night. I fished until 10 o'clock for cusk. I did not catch any cusk. I will be going back out to the fish house this morning around 9 o'clock. But what I had something here in the driveway I wanted to show you real quick. I was sitting in my cabin. I got up this morning, built a fire, and put on a pot of coffee. And one thing about a cabin off the front of the porch, especially the front of the porch, is you know all of the trees. You sit there and have coffee and you watch them blow. Well, this morning I was looking out there, and one of the trees had a great big gray spot in it. And I said, that's kind of odd. I know it's not supposed to be there. So I got out the binoculars and I looked down the driveway, and there was a porcupine up in the top of that tree. Well, I like to eat porcupine, so I might not have caught a fish yesterday, but I got myself a porcupine this morning at 6:30 as soon as I crawled out of bed. I had a 22 Magnum with a 4x12 scope on it, and I dropped one of them 22 Magnums right into his lookers. So I've got a porcupine now for my Dutch oven. Like I said, I like to eat porcupine. I see on YouTube in lots of places how people say they can live off the land and all of that. Well, that's kind of what this video is about. We've got some hungry times coming in the future, I do believe, from where I'm sitting and where I'm looking. So learning how to figure out where your next meal is going to come from might not sound like too much of a big deal right now, but I have a feeling down the road that this country is going to see some hungry times, at least in the near future. Just think about it. For the since last March, we have taken the workers out of the fields. So this tells me that the grocery stores behind the scenes could be running on fumes. It's just something to think about, but this is what it means to be a woodsman to me, is thinking ahead, thinking what's coming to us from around the next corner. And when I catch catches like this, if you see this stringer of fish, this is an abundance in some lakes and across the state of Maine. It's a catch that most people would throw back. But this is an excellent meal, depending on how you cook it. This is great for deep frying, and they are great fish for a fish chowder. So that's what it means to be a woodsman here in the state of Maine. Is that we need to have a plan in place right now. And today's video is going to be to that person that isn't a prepper. I don't consider myself a prepper. I'm not sure that's exactly the best way to go in any situation, but that's only my opinion. I'm not knocking anybody that has prepped. But what I want to talk to today is basic skills, basic woodsman skills that carry on into everyday life. And this is, like I said, this is for that person that, I mean, I'm seeing people go to the store and buying freaking toilet paper by the truckload. That's not really a necessity in life. Paper products, you know, paper products haven't been on the market for that long. You know, maybe, I have no idea, maybe 50 years, maybe as far back, I cannot imagine it goes back 100 years. Cannot imagine that at all. You know, if you talk to like my mother, my grandparents have passed away, you talk to them, they all had outhouses. These products didn't exist. So I realize that in today's age, most of us have never lived without them. Well, we're at that point right now. When you go to the grocery store and the shelves are empty, the shelves are empty. So some of the stuff that people are buying is not really a necessity as far as to sustain life. And that's what today's video is about.
It's about long-term. Long-term from this point. And for people that haven't done anything to this point except for, hey, wow, we need a lot of toilet paper because everybody else is buying toilet paper. I want you to get out of that mindset. In a chicken barn, if a chicken barn catches on fire, all of the chickens run and jump in a corner and kill themselves before the fire ever got to them. They just pile on top of each other and pile on top of each other because everybody else is doing it. So before you know it, the only chickens that are living are the ones that are on top of the pile. All the other chickens are dead. That's what happens in a chicken house fire. When a chicken barn goes up into flame, that's what happens. You need to get out of that mindset, and you need to think like a woodsman. You need to think like old school. And we aren't talking going back a long ways. We're talking going back 20 or 30 years to where a lot more stuff we did for ourselves. What you see on this table is the essentials. This is a Woodsman long-term kit. So anyways, today I'm going to talk about the essentials of a Woodsman kit. And part 2 of this video is going to be some of the foods that are essential that I don't see people buying. So in today's video, what I want to talk about is you're going to need, if you want to really talk about long-term success in this quarantine time, you're going to need a pressure canner. This is a canner. This is a pressure cooker. There's a lot of foods that are very easy to can. And they're the foods that you're seeing in the stores that nobody's buying. Potatoes, carrots, onions. Carrots canned in a canner are delicious. And you're going to need a pot. Say you're going to, this is a pressure canner. For me, these two things are a must in my life. They always have been. I prefer a stainless steel one over aluminum. I don't like to eat food that is cooked in an aluminum pot. Something to do with Alzheimer's. But anyways, that's what that stainless steel, this is stainless steel. But you could take a piece of meat that is tough as a doornail, and cook it in one of these, and then you can cut it with a fork every single time. That's what I like about it, and it's fast. You can put a whole meal in there, carrots, potatoes, onions, some kind of meat, and within 15 to 30 minutes, you've got it completely cooked, depending on what you're cooking. Like I said, we're going to get into that in another video. And the other thing you're going to need is you're going to need a stock pot. These you can buy at lawn sales for next to nothing. All it is a pot. It's for, anything. You want to have a broth for a lot of your foods. You can stick a lot of stuff in here, boil it down, and you end up with a nice broth that you can use for soup. Anything from chicken bones to fish bones, anything that I can drag home, I can put in a pot like this, and I can boil it down, strain it off, and I will have a quart or two of a nice soup starter. That's why I say a stock pot. And the other thing you're going to want a cast iron Dutch oven. This is another one of them things. You can do so much with a cast iron Dutch oven. From buying good quality meat in the near future or long-term future might be difficult. I'm not a gloom and doom person, but what I am is a person that gets out ahead and fixes a problem that I see in front of me. And this is all uncharted waters that we're going through. I have planned for a lot of scenarios in my life. This is one of them. I always thought the food chain in our country was the weak link. This should be an eye-opener. It is the weak link. Grocery stores are empty. Probably not because the food's still coming, but because people are buying it up by the truckload as soon as it gets there. Same thing with ammunition. They're still building ammunition, but you can't buy any because too many people are purchasing it before it hits the shelf, or as soon as it hits the shelf, cleaning it out. So these are things that you plan ahead for. With stuff like this, you can take that gun right there in front. That's a single shot long rifle 22. Nothing fancy, it's a bolt action. But with that bolt action, I can go out in the woods, I can shoot squirrels, I can shoot rabbits, I can shoot porcupine. Every one of those is a really good meat to put in a Dutch oven and let it simmer on the wood stove or over a fire pit or on your gas stove at home or in your oven at home. All of these pots will work at home, not just how I use them as a woodsman. But as a woodsman, these are the items that I consider a must-have in your woodsman survival kit that no one else is telling you about. They all want to talk about the fancy gadgets that fit in the fancy backpack. None of that is any good if you don't have access to food and you don't have access to ways to cook your food. And you're only going to cook food on a stick over a campfire so long before you get tired of it. That's why I have learned how to cook over a campfire. I have learned how to can food. I've learned how to pressure cook, and I've learned how to use a Dutch oven. These are the items that will feed you and your family with big meals that would last 2 or 3 days or last a week. When I come up here to the cabin, I usually make a Dutch oven full of soup or beans or a beef stew. Very simple beef stews that I build here at the cabin that will last me the entire week. And the other thing you're going to want in your woodsman kit is a knife. Not necessarily a hunting knife. This isn't a hunting knife. This is just a butcher knife. This is just a household butcher knife that I bought at a pawn shop for $3. This thing is solid steel, right down to the handle, sharp. You can butcher a deer, you can butcher anything that you bring home with that knife. You know, like stuff that you can still buy at the grocery store, like cabbage and rutabaga, stuff like that taste amazing cooked in these kind of pots. At the end of this video, I'll put you in some links to more topics about the great state of Maine. There'll be 3 of them. I also have a round circle back there. I'm standing next to a bear. Click that bear if you'd like to subscribe to my channel. Looking forward to meeting you, and come along with me to the state of Maine.